Hello my dear students, welcome back. So I'm going to teach science of class 7. So today we are going to start new lesson since lesson number 1 is complete. So before starting the lesson, let me help you to recall what you have learned in class 6, which will help you to understand today's topic. So you have learned that fibers, you have learned in class 6 that fibers are obtained from plants as well as animals. So fibers can be plant origin or animal origin. So the question is, so when we take example of animal origin, from where do we get wool? The question is, from where do we get wool? So we have already discussed about this in class 6, and the answer is from the hair or fleece of sheep or yak. And the second question is, how these fibers are converted into the woolen yarn. How these fibers are converted into woolen yarn. So the second question is related with our today's topic. So with this, I'll tell you today's topic. Today's topic is fiber to fabric. Fiber to fabric. So how we are going to convert fiber to fabric? This is lesson number 3 of your textbook. So in this particular lesson number 3, it contains 2 subtopics. So we are going to discuss only one subtopic, that is wool. So I repeat, today's topic is fiber to fabric, how we are going to convert fiber to fabric. This is lesson number 3, and this particular lesson number 3 has 2 subtopics. Today we are going to discuss only one subtopic, and the name of the subtopic is wool. So let's start with the lecture. So wool. So in the starting of the lesson itself, you will find that wool comes from sheep. Wool comes from sheep, goat, yak, and other animals. So the source of wool is maybe from sheep, goat, yak, or other animals. They have hair on their body. So when we talk about the sheep, goat, yak, they have hair. They have hair on their body, and that hair trap lot of air. They have a hair on their body, and this hair trap lot of air. Since air is a poor conductor of heat, it keeps these animals warm. So they trap a lot of air, and air being a poor conductor of heat, it helps the animal to keep warm. So wool is derived from these hairy fibers. The hairy skin of the sheep has 2 types of fibers. So in your textbook, regarding the hair of sheep, 2 types are discussed. One is the coarse one, and the other one is fine, soft under hair, close to the skin. So the second one is, this one is used for making wool. So in order to get only soft under hair sheep, selective breeding is done. Since soft under hair is required for making wool, selective breeding is very important. So moving further, into the, when you look at the textbook, under this topic wool, you will find 3 points that are discussed. Number 1 is animals that yield wool. Number 1 is animals that yield wool. So in order to obtain wool, we have to identify which animals is required to give wool. So animals that yield wool is discussed in your textbook. And the second point is from fibers to wool. How we are going to convert fibers to wool. Then the third one is, which is related with the second point, that is processing fibers into wool. So this third point, 6 steps are given in third point. So we are going to discuss each and every step of processing fibers into wool. So we'll start from the animal that yields wool. So number one point under the topic wool is animals that yield wool. So sheep is not the only source. Sheep is not the only one. Sheep is not the only one where we get wool. There are in your textbook, mohair is obtained from Angaro goats. Wool is also obtained from goat hair. Mohair from Angora goats. Wool is obtained from goat hair. Is also obtained from goat hair. The fur on the body of camels, camel fur. Camel fur is also used as wool. So the point is, a sheep is not the only source of wool. So the second point under the topic wool is from fibers to wool. For obtaining wool, sheep are rare. In order to obtain wool, sheep are rare. Their hair is cut and processed into wool. Then their hair are cut and processed. Cut and then processed. So how we are going to obtain wool from fiber? Sheep are reared. Their hair are cut. Their hair are cut and processed. So rearing and breeding of sheep. So in this point, rearing and breeding are discussed. Rearing and breeding are discussed. Rearing and breeding. Rearing means bringing up and care until they are fully grown. Bringing up and care for until they are fully grown. Breeding means give birth, offspring by animals. Production of offspring, give birth. So rearing and breeding is important in order to obtain wool from sheep. Rearing yokpaduni, breeding na macha. So rearing is bringing up and caring until they are grown up. Breeding is giving birth or production of offspring by animals. This is important point. So we are going to discuss the processing. So we are going to discuss the processing. The processing part, which I have told you in the starting of the lecture itself that it contains 6 steps. Step number 1 is shearing. Step number 2 is scoring. Step number 3 is sorting. Step number 4 is cleaning. Step number 5 is dyeing. And the last one, step number 6 is rolling. So 6 steps are given in your textbook under the topic processing fibers into wool. So in order to process fibers into wool, 6 steps are required. Number 1 is shearing. Shearing the fleece natraga hair do are removed or cut. Kathalani. Fleece or hair are removed. Scoring the ngasai fleece to abadu wash sudo to remove grease, dust and dirt. Then shorting and a khandok hair of different textures, different textures manadaba sing to khantok different textures. So in short, you can say here of different textures are separated or shorted khantok. Step number 4, the cleaning is the second step. Scoring to hyphen manai score again and dry. Cleaning Number 5 is dyed in various colors. Dyed in various colors. White, black, brown khatang lai atopa machu sing phange hai taragadi machu sangbata colors. The last step is fibers are rolled into yarn. Rolling step to yarn onto yarn ID thread. So fibers are rolled into yarn. The longer fibers are made into wool for sweaters, and the shorter fibers are spun and woven into woolen cloth. The longer fibers, singduna sweaters have the scenery. Shorter fibers singduna are spun and woven into woolen cloth. So I would like to repeat the process again. Since it contains 6 steps, it is very important to remember all the steps one by one. You cannot jumble also. You have to start with the shading and you have to end with the rolling. You cannot start with the rolling part. So it is one after another steps. You cannot jumble the steps. So try to remember all the steps one by one. The series should not be broken. So number 1 is shearing. So in shearing, you have to remove the hair or fleece. So after removing the hair or fleece, you have to wash in order to remove the dirt grease, which is called scoring. The third step is shorting. Shorting means it has different textures. Hairs of different textures are to separate different textures. And the fourth one is cleaning, which is similar to the second step, scoring. So it washed again and dried. Number 5 is dyeing. Since the hair comes only in a brown, black or white, in order to get varieties of color, dyeing is very important. So dyed in various colors. Then the last step is rolling. So in the last step, after completing all this, it is converted into thread, or you can call it yarn. So in this, the longer fibers are made into wool for sweaters, and the shorter fibers are spun and woven into woolen cloth. So important points to remember during the process, during this process or during the processing of wool. One more point is given in your textbook. It is very important to remember that during this process or during the processing of fibers into wool, there is an occupational hazard. Occupational hazard is very important. So while doing the processing, we should always remember occupational hazard. Occupational hazard. So in this particular processing of fibers into wool, the occupational hazard is while sorting. So while sorting, sorter's job is risky. They may get infected by a bacterium. While sorting, they may get infected by a bacterium called anthrax. So occupational hazard is very important. It is given in your textbook. So while sorting, they may get infected by a bacterium called anthrax, which causes a fatal blood disease. And this disease is also called sorter's disease. So occupational hazard is very important. So while during the processing of converting fibers into wool, during sorting, or you can say separating different textures, the workers may get infected by a bacterium called anthrax, and this causes a disease called sorter's disease, which is a fatal blood disease. So as I told you in the starting of the lecture that we will discuss only one topic in today's lecture, and the remaining That means the second topic will be discussed in the next lecture. So this is lesson number 3. So I'll summarize what we have learned today. So two types of fibers from here, two types of fibers we have discussed. Two types of fibers from hairy skin of sheep. The first one is coarse and the other one is soft under hair. Soft under hair. So we require the soft under hair for making wool. For this, selective breathing is very important. The second point that we have discussed in today's lecture is sieve is not the only source of wool. Sieve is not the only source. Sieve is not the only source of wool. Goat is also there. Camel is also given in your textbook. Angora goat is also given. And the third point is rearing and breeding. So in order to obtain wool, rearing and breeding is important. Number 4 is the last point that we have discussed in today's lecture is processing of fiber into wool. Fourth point is processing of fiber into wool. So in this we have discussed a 6-step starting with shearing, followed by scoring. I already discussed in detail. We have already discussed in detail about the steps: shearing, scoring, then sorting, followed by cleaning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shearing, scoring, sorting, cleaning, then dyeing. Then the last one is rolling. So we have discussed in detail about this step in today's lecture: shearing, scoring, sorting, cleaning, dyeing, and the last one is rolling. And we have discussed occupational hazards also, about the sorter's disease. So these are the points we have discussed in today's lecture. And in every lecture I told you evaluation is a very important. So in today's lecture also, for evaluation I am going to write some questions on the whiteboard. So since this is online, you have to evaluate yourself to check whether you have understand the topic or not. So try to find the answers of these questions. You are not supposed to write the answer in your classwork notebook. This is as an evaluation. Why it hurts when someone pulls your hair but not when you go for a haircut. So I repeat the question again. Why it hurts when someone pulls your hair but not when you go for a haircut? Question number 2 is, why do we feel warm on wearing woolen clothes? So I would like to translate in Manipuri also. Sam chingma matamda di nai, sam kakpuda di nadi. Ahan question si. Ani shu matamda woolen clothes lit la kanda lummisi kai maram gino. So why it hurts when someone pulls your haircut? It should be haircut. So why it hurts when someone pulls your hair? But not when you go for a haircut. Second question is, why do we feel warm on wearing woolen clothes? So try to find the answers of these questions. It will help you to evaluate yourself. Evaluation means to check whether you have understand the topic or not. So for this, please go through the lecture again and again, and you can take the reference of textbook also. The thing is, you are not supposed to write the answer in your classroom notebook. This is as a evaluation. So with this, I conclude my today's lecture, or I conclude my lecture. Thank you. Thank you for listening and watching. So the second topic will be discussed in the next class. Thank you.